Hello and welcome to this video on preliminaries within the construction industry. If you're new to construction or a client that is having work carried out, for example construction of an office building, at some point in the future you will hear the words prelims or P&G, which is short for preliminaries. So, what are preliminaries? Preliminaries are the essential items required to complete a project, but do not form part of any specific trade package, for example the excavation trade. To help you understand, I will break a project down into three phases. The first, the initial site setup, i.e. site establishment. The second phase, the construction. And then the last phase, the project completion, i.e. demobilisation. Before we begin, I want you to place yourself in the position of a contractor's estimator or a construction manager and think of all the items that were needed to support the efficient running of a project, but are not part of the finished structure. Let's break down the three phases, starting off with the initial site setup, i.e. the site establishment. The first item for the contractor will be to take possession of the site that the project will be built on. Depending on the size and complexity of the project, site fencing will need to be erected. Site accommodation will then need to be accounted for, together with toilets and containers to house plant and tools that will be required throughout the project. These are only but a few of the items that fall into this phase. Next, moving into the construction phase, these are the running costs to fulfill a project's execution throughout the construction period. And what items fall within this phase? The main item to be considered are the project management team, i.e. the project manager, site manager, quantity surveyor or administrator. The percentage allocations of these will be based on the size and complexity of the project. Some may be permanent, whilst others will be shared across projects. Other items include plant equipment such as cranes, which are vital for lifting materials from one location to another. As you can appreciate, crane can be used to assist many trades but would be extremely difficult to price. Thus falls under preliminaries. Based on the same principle as cranes, scaffolding falls under the construction phase. Scaffolding is adjusted numerous times throughout a project based on the stage of a project. And finally, we come to the final stage, demobilisation. This is when the project is virtually complete and thus the opposite to initial site setup can begin. A final clean is undertaken on the project before passing over to the client. Site accommodation, toilets and fencing are gradually removed from site and the surrounding land is left in an acceptable condition. When estimating the preliminary section, the contractor should firstly visit the site, prepare a site layout drawing showing the position of accommodation, access routes, storage areas and services, determine the construction methodology, prepare initial programme for planning staff, plant and temporary works requirements, fully understand the conditions of contract and read and note any peculiarities in the specific requirements and special conditions of contract. And that concludes this video on preliminaries. Although I've only covered a small portion of items, I hope you can now go away and consider all the other items that may be needed for a construction project to enable a structure to be completed. Thanks for watching.